Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Progressive Discussions. I'm your host, James P. Madonna, as seen on the web, Mega Life 21 Progressive Discussions, and it happens to be the Ides of March are coming soon. March goes in like a lion and out like a lamb. It is March the 1st. How about that? March the 1st, 2020. And I was watching the tremendous Bernie Sanders rally in Los Angeles with Public Enemy Radio as entertainment. Comedian Sarah Silverman participated. The legendary actor and comedian Dick Van Dyke. I imagine he's a producer also, Dick Van Dyke. He had much to say, and it was a massive turnout. So I salute all the comrades out there and in Los Angeles, because this week is Super Tuesday. There's several states here at stake for the Sanders campaign. And before I continue, unmute your microphone, Comrade Damian Owens. Hold on. I can't get. Oh, there you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Yeah,
All right.
I could hear you. Is your resolution smaller than it was on the other computer? It looks, but it's clear. It's crystal clear. I think you have.
Mhm.
I think you have. I could tell immediately that you definitely have a much better quality video with this.
Sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the resolution is just a tad bit smaller, but the quality is much better. You're like high definition, Comrade Damian Owens. All right. Now, I will begin my little tirade or rant. Okay, here we go. Okay. First, I want to say that I am thrilled that Pete Buttigieg has quit the campaign. Pete Buttigieg has bootied his last jig, and now he can go on to start that bar restaurant chain called the Wine Cave, if he's smart. That's in his future. That's his forte, in my opinion. The Wine Cave. It'll be like a Golden Corral for rich people, except with a bar, because you have to have wine. So good riddance to bad rubbish. It couldn't happen to a better pencil neck geek. It couldn't happen to a better ventriloquist dummy. Howdy doody with brown hair. Goodbye, Pete. I hope things work out with your restaurant chain. Now, getting to the title. you know what? The United States media really does suck. They really are in bed with the oligarch. They're all corporate whores, whether it be MSNBC, especially CNN. Aaron Burnett is probably one of the most right-wing bitches on media, on the U.S. media. CNN used to ignore Bernie Sanders and not even mention Bernie Sanders' name and promote the centrist corporate whores that are running in this Democrat 2020 campaign. They would just promote Pete Buttigieg when he was still active. The very annoying nails across the chalkboard nasal voice Amy Klobuchar. Americans are not ready for socialism. Americans don't want socialism. They would support her because, of course, they would love to make history again and have the very first female president. Gooseneck Elizabeth Warren is a capitalist. She admitted it. She's probably on the take from, let's say, insurance companies that do not want the single-payer universal Medicare for all. Sleepy, creepy, touchy-feely Joe Biden. He's a corporatist. There's no doubt about that. And if it wasn't for his past attachment to Barack Obama and the fact that he is riding Barack Obama's coattails in this campaign, he will be nothing. He will be nothing. The people of South Carolina are dumber than a bag of rocks. The only reason why they voted for Joe Biden is because of his attachment to Barack Obama. You know, the blacks came out to support him because of Barack Obama. But let's not forget the massive amounts of people of color, African American, Latino, young people, the biggest millennial and young voter turnout in history is happening under the Sanders campaign. So he has a massive amount of multi-racial, multicultural, multi-generational support. And I'm very happy that his rallies are perhaps more enthusiastic and more massive than they were in 2016. So I'm happy about that. But getting back to the U.S. media, you really are sycophants to the oligarch. You are tools of the oligarch, just like Michael Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg, the man with the Napoleonic complex, the midget, he is part of the oligarch. He's a multi-billionaire. But, you know, Tom Steyer, on the other hand, is a multi-billionaire, I believe, but he's very progressive. And I'm curious to see who he ends up endorsing. I know Pete Buttigieg is not going to endorse Bernie Sanders or anyone representing democratic socialism, and I can care less. You know, what is his credentials? A mayor of South Bend, Indiana? He wasn't even a congressman or a senator representing the state of Indiana. He wasn't even a governor representing the state of Indiana. He was just the mayor of South Bend, and a poor one at that. So his credentials suck. Okay, but yes, Michael Bloomberg, his smug attitude towards Bernie Sanders, attacking democratic socialism in the South Carolina, the rigged South Carolina Democratic debate, where the audience had to make a sizable contribution to the DNC in order to be in the audience, in order to be allowed in the building. So every time Michael Bloomberg, the little multi-billion-dollar midget, had something to say about capitalism, they all screamed and cheered, of course. And every time Bernie Sanders opened his mouth and said something progressive, they all booed him very loudly. So it's obvious that the audience was rigged, just like a comedian would pay off professional laughers to sit in the front row. Okay, but Bernie did get hot under the collar, but I would have been more aggressive. I would have raised my voice at Bloomberg and really told him quite a few things about capitalism. Oh, by the way, I saw a Mike Bloomberg political commercial, and he claims that he single-handedly saved New York and handled the whole 9/11 crisis, the attacks on the World Trade Center. From what I understand, Rudy Giuliani was mayor of New York City when that happened, not Michael Bloomberg. So Michael Bloomberg was kind of Trump style, pathologically or deliberately lying that he single-handedly brought the city of New York up from the despair and the trauma of 9/11. You see how Republicans lie? You see how hypocritical conservatives really are? And by the way, if they claim to be Christian, they're part of a cult. They really are not Christians at all. They cherry pick from the Old Testament what they like. Ronnie S. Tulsi Gabbard got screwed. A lot of people would like to screw Tulsi Gabbard. Let me tell you that. That little mixed race South Pacific Islander. Bernie is just not a fighter. Trump would fuck him up. Oh, okay, we're gonna have a good show, Damien. We're gonna have a good show. I could tell. Okay. Anyway, back to the media. Now, instead of ignoring Bernie Sanders' name, they are blatantly attacking him because they're showing how much they really are corporate whores and tools of the oligarch and in bed with the oligarch. They're making it very obvious. Forget about unbiased journalism. You're not going to see that in today's American media. Now, I just want to say that capitalism has always been rigged for the top 2%. Capitalism has always been rigged by the oligarch. Supposedly, since 1776, only 10% of the population has ever been upwardly mobile all on their own without receiving any big breaks. And the only way you can really make it to the top from nothing is to get big breaks or to use underhanded tactics in business, to be shady, to be sleazy, to be corrupt. It's the devil's economics. That's what capitalism has always been about. And democratic socialism, like they have in Scandinavian countries, is proven successful for decades. And if you want to find out who the real Christians are, if you happen to be religious, look for a progressive, because they are more loving in their heart and more generous and compassionate and show empathy than any conservative, fake, phony, fraud, counterfeit, Christian cultist, zealot, Republican will ever be. We're talking about evangelicals. The ones that are crazy enough to think that a fertilized egg is a human baby. It is a potential life. It is no more a baby than an acorn is an oak tree. And even a fetus that, or an embryo, what the fuck comes first? I really don't care, because I'm like W.C. Fields. I'm not really into children that much. A fetus, I think an embryo comes first, but Damian Owens, Comrade Owens will correct me. An embryo that breathes like a fish is not a baby. if you want to be religious fanatics, you zealots out there, you know what the Bible says about when life really began? When Adam received his first breath. You want to cherry pick? I know you won't cherry pick that. When Adam received his first breath, not during conception or somebody murdering spermatozoa into a toilet. You know, well, yeah, you know, Tulsi's very doable, but yeah, well, that would be nice, a nice photo op, right? If you could take a picture with her and she can autograph that, not across her breasts or her coochie though, you know. But anyway, we're gonna bring on Damian Owens because um, I'm really furious towards the U.S. media, and particularly CNN. Even someone who pretends to be progressive, like Chris Cuomo, the brother of I believe, well, the son of the late Mario Cuomo, the brother of Andrew Cuomo, uh, governor of New York State. He pretends to be progressive, but they are all beholden to the fat cats who sign their paychecks. They're spineless cowards. They're sycophant, suck up company people. They're pussies, and um, of course, I tell it like it is. And by the way, I haven't forgotten the CEO of Twitter. What you did to my account, the other pencil neck geek, Mister. Anyway, he had an Irish last name. Wasn't Dorsey? Was it Dorsey? Whatever he is, he's a pencil neck geek, and his community standards are just a way of implementing corporate fascism on the public on social media. That's all it is, corporate fascism. They just don't want to lose any victims of their spamming on social media. That's what it probably is. They don't really care. You know why? Because I called Amy Klobuchar a bitch. She is a power-hungry feminist bitch. All right, let's bring in Comrade, the great Comrade. There he is, the great Comrade. How are you doing? Oh, you're muted again.
Hello, sir. Here I is, and hello, world.
And I'm glad to see the Comrade himself in high definition splendor.
Yes, with a nice Rick and Morty poster behind me.
Yeah. You look like you're in your own little, not wine cave, but craft beer, porter, IPA, a stout cave, I'd say.
Not really. I'm just sitting here in the bedroom on the other side of the house in a black reclining chair in one of the corners. So, yeah.
I like corners because they're cozy. That's probably why paranormal experts say that evil spirits love to hide in corners. Because I always like corners when I go to a restaurant, but it seems very peaceful and serene, and dimly lit. Like even though you're crystal clear, I like the darkness around you in general. You know,
Right.
it was too bright in the other room. So it has more of a gothic look, more of a serious progressive warrior look. Kind of
Yep.
macabre. It goes good with the skull. So anyway,
Thank you.
I am not going to pay too much attention to Ronnie S.'s pro right-wing comments, even though I did display them.
Right.
Were you able to hear and see everything when you were when you were backstage?
Oh, yeah, everything came through no problem.
All right, great. Well, we're here, and I said all I needed to say about the media. They obviously are, by their behavior, in bed with the fat cats and the oligarch, and they are tools of the oligarch, and so are the centrist Democrats. And there's really not too much more to say except go Super Tuesday, get out there and vote. I'm very happy young people um, have registered to vote, and including the multi generational, like I said before, multiracial, multicultural uh, support of the Democratic Socialist Sanders campaign. Now, well, he's the only Democratic Socialist we have. I mean, I wouldn't, I would not have been so kind to Michael Bloomberg on stage and to that rigged audience. Not, no, not at all. Matter of fact, maybe I would have wore this beret. Who knows? You never know. It might help. Some say it might hurt. Like this guy named Ben Shapiro, who I've been telling off on social media, that
Oh God.
is pro-Trump, pro-Republican, and he had an image of Fidel Castro with Sanders' face, calling him Fidel Sanders. Because why? Because he told the truth about the Castro literacy program. I know you know a lot of
Right. Yep.
that stuff. Stuff. There you go.
Well, I'm just listening to you for right now.
I don't know the details of the progressive programs implemented by the Castro regime. I know they're all over him, but they weren't all over Trump when he said Kim Jong Un. I got a love affair with Putin and Kim Jong Un, and they're just absolutely wonderful people, and blah blah blah. Nobody, you know, the Republicans, of course, had nothing to say about any of the lies and ridiculous tweets and comments that Donald Trump has to say, and how how he thinks he's above the Constitution and above the law. No Republicans have any complaints about the asinine, moronic, ridiculous cronyism things and corruption comments of Donald Trump, and nothing to say about any of the shenanigans that came out of the Trump administration or his mouth, and how he showed racism uh, um, towards brown people coming across the border. Not at all. Doesn't say a word about that. But Sanders mentions Castro's literacy program, and whammo, they're all over Bernie Sanders for that one comment, because they're famous for being hypocrites, and that's what they do. That's that. That's the whole thing in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But so to touch on a little bit about Castro's literacy program. So it's not just something exclusive to Cuba. Um, Maoist China did the same thing, North Korea, the Soviet Union, because, like I said, when we were talking about, Marxist theory and where Marx was wrong, about how, the first world was supposed to carry out revolution, but then yet it was the third world who ultimately carried out the revolution. And the biggest thing they really wanted to do was education and bring literacy to the mass population, because you got to understand what it was like in these poor, despotic, backward third world countries at the time before socialism was ever introduced or implemented, and even the most primitive form. They wanted a population that was very dumb and illiterate and completely incapable of logic or even kind of critical thinking. But that was not the case with the new socialist or communist governments in these third world countries. They wanted people to be able to read, to write, to be logical, and to have critical thinking skills. So the fact that they want that, it just shows you just how progressive socialism really is. It's the most progressive out of all of the systems because I hate to say it, reading and writing and also having logic and critical thinking skills are basic fundamental rights. Same thing as like having, your freedom of speech, your freedoms of expressions, the right to privacy, the right to, a fair and speedy trial, the right to education, the right to health care, the right to infrastructure, the right to a job and a living wage. I mean, those are all basic fundamental rights. The same thing with also being allowed to, be armed to defend all of your rights as well. Those are all basic fundamental human rights. So, in all honesty, I don't understand what really the big fucking issue is here by this one comment. As you said, just they're just being just a bunch of fucking hypocrites. Pure and fucking simple is what they are. And whenever Trump says, he's got a love affair with Kim Jong Un and uh, all these other various people. I'm just like, no, no, you don't. In fact, if anything, they're probably just saying that to your face just to stroke your big ego you got. But in reality, they're probably stabbing you in the back, laughing at you, and just making a huge mockery of you, big dumbass motherfucking Cheeto dust covered orangutan.
Remember when there was, I don't know if it was in Latin America, but remember when there was some kind of a international summit where Vladimir Putin was high-fiving the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and they were practically embracing. I'm sure they have a very big laugh behind Donald Trump's back.
Oh hell yeah! They all do.
I'm sure even the evil, wicked Netanyahu has a huge laugh behind his back because they know that he's easy to play. He's an easy fiddle to play. Puppet strings. You just give him compliments and he loves you to death.
Yeah, you stroke his big ego. Oh, it's a love affair. He loves me. He thinks I'm wonderful. He thinks I'm terrific. And I'm the most Donald of the Donalds out there. Yeah. Yeah. Just go ahead and just keep appeasing that ego of yours. Okay. So this is my tablet that I'm doing this on. I paid $139 for this bad boy, and to be honest, this is probably the best $139 I've spent in a long while. But since you got that Donald Trump stress ball up, I sent some Donald Trump impersonations coming up. So, all right. So, what do you want me to say? You go ahead and start.
Oh, that crazy. Now let's see. We have a choice. I the choice is between a sleepy Joe Biden and crazy Bernie. Oh gee, who will be easier to defeat? I will defeat the both of them. Uh, 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 and by the way, the dictators just love me. All the dictators love me. Why do I get along with dictators so well? Oh, excuse me. Let me clear my throat so my real voice can come through.
Hmm. Well, you see, the reason why dictators love me so much is we're all just a bunch of rich motherfuckers, and you're all just a dumb bunch of piss poor peasants, is what you people the fuck are. I play you like a fiddle, I appeal to everything bad in humanity, and you buy it, and you just want to shovel the shit down like there's no tomorrow. You people are disgusting.
Well, uh, what's worse than that? See, Donald Trump is a showman. If it wasn't for his father leaving him the empire and teaching him how to be a shady rich person, he would have been nowhere. And that's the only reason why he got the show, The Apprentice. That's the only reason why he got invited to all the talk shows, is because of the family he was born into. And he's an entertainer. And honestly, I heard like Howard Stern, who knows Trump, said he really he really dislikes the job of being a president, but he loves winning big. It's the game of the campaign and winning the election that he adores because of his ego. You know, he just he loves the pursuit and the winning of it, but he hates the job. Uh, and he is more unqualified to be president than Pete Buttigieg is to be mayor of even a big city, because I heard he wasn't that great of a mayor of Little Hammonegger, South Bend, Indiana, with a Notre Dame University, right? But anyway, uh, there. Ooh, and Damien got temporarily booted off. There he comes. There he is. There he is. He's
I
back.
press one button just to check my battery, and just has to go. Nope.
StreamYard, what's wrong with you people? You know, you ever see the guy that runs StreamYard? He's another pencil neck geek. He's more of
Right.
a pencil neck geek than Buttigieg.
Oh God.
He is. He makes Mark Zuckerberg look like Mr. Olympia. Mr. Olympia.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on Pete fucking Buttigieg.
Well,
I mean, you can only twerk so much before your twerking comes to an end. But maybe he can twerk for old Bozos Bezos. Maybe that might be able to, still have his cut out or his stake in life. Just maybe. For all we know, maybe Bozos Bezos will help him order all of the buildings for the restaurants and everything needed to open up those booty jig restaurants. And you know what? That sounds like the name of a very interesting strip club, but not necessarily a high dollar one.
Oh, wait a minute. He could start a gay go-go string of gentlemen's clubs. Booty. Hey, let's coin it right now. He can be a real big time businessman. Forget he can do the bar restaurant chain, the Wine Cave. Then he can do the gentlemen's clubs for gay people only. Booty Jigs Gentlemen's Clubs. Booty Jig.
Oh God, just
that sounds fabulous. Now, what was I know? I know. What amazes me is how even a person that's well known for being a true progressive. I'm talking about gooseneck Elizabeth Warren. She said with her eyes like a deer in front of headlights. She opens her eyes. Oh, I'm a capitalist. I like capitalism. So all of a sudden, her progressiveness just went out the window. She said, she says, I'll be much better than Bernie Sanders. Well, how are you going to be better if you are a sycophant to the fat cats and Bernie Sanders is not? You want the millionaire tax or the billionaire tax. Of course, Mike Bloomberg is against that, and he's against having employees owning any percentage of a corporation. Of course, he's against that, and he's a real pro-capitalist, which surprises me. Why? Well, he's running as a Democrat because the incumbent is Donald Trump, so he has no choice. But he really is not a true Democrat. He's more or less a pretend ultra right-wing Democrat. But Elizabeth Warren, she always comes off as being the number one progressive, and the idiots that follow her always call her a true progressive, but she's not, because she embraces capitalism and she admitted it. many times during the debates. So the second person that I am hoping would quit is Nasal Twang Klobuchar, the militant feminazi. I can't wait until she runs out of funds because I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll give it time. She will.
yeah, I know Bloomberg will outlast Klobuchar and Warren because Warren is not doing so great in the polls either, from what I understand. And if you got MSNBC and CNN showing them at a very low percentage in the polls, I'm talking about Warren and Klobuchar, and uh, then you know that they're in hot water. For the corporate whore U.S. media to do that. Now the corporate whore U.S. media seems to be behind Sleepy Joe Biden and uh, Napoleon, not the pastry, but the Napoleon. What do you call Napoleonic complex? Um, Lollipop Guild member Michael Bloomberg. They're behind him and Biden because they know that Warren and Klobuchar are getting demolished pretty much at this stage in the campaign.
Right.
Warren did it to herself early on. We all know what she did. Wow, wow, wow. What do you mean a woman can't get elected to political office? Wow, wow. I am woman. Blah blah blah. She's doing that. Playing the gender card. The poor victim, sweet Polly, purebred from the old underdog cartoons, playing the gender card and the fake indigenous Pocahontas bullshit.
Oh God.
Yeah, right. If she has Native American blood in her, then I am next in line to be the next pope in the Vatican. Yeah, yeah. So,
just I could just see you as a pope. Yeah.
I'll be a pope. I could sit on a commode and I can give speeches, and then it'll really be shooting the shit. But
yeah, but I mean, you as a pope, you'd probably just say this religion or this book is full of shit, and you're all full of shit. You people believe this shit, you're dumb as shit, and then you just walk away with a mic drop.
I'll make them listen.
That'd be you as a pope.
I'll make them listen to a few, George Carlin videos, to wise them up.
Oh yeah. But George Carlin did not like religion, and religion did not like George Carlin.
I'm going to say, okay, the Pope's attire will change. Instead of that hat and that outfit, the Wizard Ozzy Buko's outfit will be the new standard for the Pope. So, but anyway, all right, Ronnie S. has something to say. What did Ronnie S. have to say? It doesn't matter what the corporate whores want. Hey, it's a free country. People could say any crazy thing they want. The proof is in the pudding, not the pudding that Bill Cosby used to advertise for. Not that cheap ass crap. I'm talking about good home style, mighty fine, in the pot. The proof is in the pudding. So people can say anything they want. Talk is cheap. I mean, infomercials, infomercial pitchmen say it all the time on late night TV. You can make claims galore, but if you have time proven results, like, and I'm going to say it again, democratic socialism in the Scandinavian countries, time proven results for decades. And you gotta love that basic government monthly salary to keep your citizens' nose above water at all times and keep a nice, decent, clean roof over their head, clothes, and health care, and an education. No child left behind, no geezer left behind. Everybody can go to free university, uh, public colleges, whatever course you want. You could be a poor kid in the ghetto. Well, there won't be a ghetto under socialism, but you can be an average child. If you have a high IQ, guess what? You can take any courses you want because it's tuition free. No more 100 grand in student debt that you're never going to pay off. And guess what? Even if you're lucky enough to suck somebody off to get that entry level job when you graduate, you're not going to get a living wage to be able to make a dent in that student loan. So time proven, proof is in the pudding. Scandinavia is, and Canada to a certain degree, the prototypes. And by the way, my friends in China tell me how up in technology so-called communist China is. Don't forget, they don't have the dinosaur called Amtrak. They have those high-speed electromagnetic bullet trains, and they have a space program that the American media never talks about. They have space stations, they have shuttlecrafts, they have everything. I saw it on CCTV. The U.S. media will never mention anything about the Chinese space program. Isn't that amazing?
Oh yeah, that is amazing. I'm just taking off my jacket 'cause it's getting a little warm in here because this side of the house tends to stay warm while the other side of the house tends to stay cold. I have no way of explaining how the fuck that works, but yeah.
Well, you might as well get comfortable because like I said, I like the gothic, macabre, cave-like lighting. It was way too bright on the other side, and it seems very serene and peaceful in that room so far.
hmm
Knock on wood.
Well, I mean, the walls are a little thicker on this side of the house, and there's a thicker door, and it's shut. And basically, I have like not literally, but I do have kind of like a saying where if the bedroom door is shut, that means do not disturb for any reason. And you could probably understand why, especially being a married man, but that's really neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, I do like it in this room. It's peaceful, it's quiet. The only noise I got is I do have a fan going, because like I said, it does get a little hot on this side of the house compared to the other side of the house. So,
Do they have a sign that says "Do not disturb" or else this means you with a big finger pointing? Do they have
I
such?
don't know. But knowing how things are nowadays, it could probably be made.
Anything could be made. Yeah, that's true. Anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we could make PhDs and come up. Technically, with your knowledge, we can come up with some kind of a cyber university and uh, give out progressive warrior. No, not degrees. Well, progressive warrior degrees.
Uh huh.
Uh, um, um, but they have to. They can't flip flop in their opinion. They have to be consistent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they
Because
can't.
I can't stand it when people are like that. When it's like, will the real person please just come forward? And it's like, for fuck's sake, just be
Yeah,
yourself. I mean, even if you are a race, see, the biggest thing that kills me is when, you know, people that are racist try not to be. It's just like it's so apparent. Because like if Donald Trump were to just try to come out today or tomorrow or whenever and say I'm not racist, everyone would know he's fucking lying through his fucking teeth because he could not open his mouth without some kind of either racist, sexist, or classist, or some other kind of cis word to be derogatory to people. It can't be physically done by this person.
Well, you notice he always has something negative to say about brown skinned immigrants, but
Exactly.
never about European immigrants, because he happens to like European women, obviously. Uh, and getting back to consistency and people that are not hypocrites. The thing about you and the thing about me is that we are consistent. You know, we don't try to pretend, like some people I know try to pretend to be progressive to get on my good side, and then all of a sudden come off as being ultra right wing, and then sound a little progressive again, and then you're constantly
Right.
flip flop. Like some people I know, wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah,
Uh,
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Nudge, nudge. Yeah, that's how. By the way, for the coronavirus, yeah, don't touch any public restroom doorknobs or anything, and ATM machines have to be the worst culprit. Use a plastic shopping bag like I do, or a disposable glove or something.
I
You know,
hardly ever keep cash on hand. I very rarely ever go to an ATM. If I need cash back, I just go and get something at a store and just get cash back if I need some cash on hand.
well, that's the beauty of technology, as in the debit card. You don't have to keep a lot of cash anymore. And now, if you want to travel, Damian Owens, there's a Visa travel card which charges no fee, and you are guaranteed to get an honest exchange rate from dollars to whatever, to pesos or to
Right.
euros or to whatever.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, I have a friend who lives in Germany, so if he were to ever come to the U.S. or we go over to Germany and visit him, we're always staying on top of what the exchange rates are. I think the last time I checked was $1 equals 1.17 euros. The Canadian dollar, I think it's like $1 to like 1 point something or another Canadian dollars. For pesos, I think it's like $1 for. It used to be like a dollar was 10 pesos,
We're
but
talking about the Mexican pesos because there are other countries like the Philippines who have a peso. So we're talking about the Mexican.
right,
Okay.
right. Um, the dollar in the rest of the world actually does have a lot of buying power still, but yet I would say as time progresses and capitalism goes more destructive and we really see its true face and it turns more inward on itself and becomes way more self-destructive.
And guess who said that? Nikita Khrushchev.
Khrushchev, yes. The dollar will probably lose its prominence. What type of currency would take its place? That's a very good question, which is why, it makes a big case to just go ahead and argue for just a one world currency. So that way, no matter where you go, it has the same buying power and it's the same language that everybody speaks. So,
Okay. Now,
at
now,
this point, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. At this point, I was going to mention something connected to currency, but say what you got to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, at this point, we probably just need to just go ahead and just have a one world currency just to make things more simplified. So we don't have to worry about all these exchange rates. That way, regardless of whether, I'm here in the US, Canada, Mexico, or I'm in Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, or if at some point we colonize Antarctica, that least we have the same currency. It has the same buying power no matter where you go. And also, it would also balance out as in, the currency would not really be super powerful, but it would not be super weak either, considering that, all countries would buy into it and everyone would have the exact same currency. So in the end, it would balance out. It wouldn't be super strong or super weak, but at least we'd have some kind of stability because with exchange rates nowadays where if one currency is doing good, then it's completely disproportional to ours and other currencies, and then if that currency is weak, it's disproportionate to ours and others. It turns into just one big complicated mess. And my last point is that's another reason why we got away from the gold standard was because of you know gold prices fluctuate all the time, and it's too unstable. I mean, it's great to have as a backup to have just in case something were to happen. But that's why they got rid of it, not necessarily because of it strengthened currency. That's a myth. The only reason why currency has value is a particular country that uses it internally or domestically, and other countries acknowledge it internationally. That's the only reason why any currency throughout the world has any legitimacy and has any value.
Now,
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 if a country doesn't use it or is not accepted, it has no value.
now,
Period.
gold has. I used to dabble in investments years ago. I had no load mutual funds. That means there's no sales charge, and I used to do dollar cost averaging. You invest the same amount on the same day every month, and the shares, you buy more shares when the price is down, and you buy less when the price is up, blah blah blah. When the interest rate is high, stocks will die. When the interest rate is low, stocks will grow. And when stocks die, bonds, Ginnie Maes, and short-term debt securities like money market funds start to skyrocket based on the interest rate. Now, gold has a tendency to skyrocket during a crisis, either national or international. Gold will skyrocket, and people buy it as a hedge uh, uh, uh,
Right.
against calamities. Like, for instance, the coronavirus epidemic. I'm sure gold went way up when the Ebola was being talked about in the news all the time. Now it's the coronavirus. I'm sure gold is going up. Um, uh, Donald Trump being president, that has to be a boom for people that own gold bullion, gold bars, gold coins, because him alone is enough to make gold skyrocket. But not just gold,
Right.
silver, platinum, the precious metals. Oh, by the way, if the Trump administration ever colonized Antarctica, would they like segregate the penguins? Would they put like all the emperor penguins on? Okay, you see that border? You can't cross. We're going to build an ice wall. We're going to keep the emperors here, and the
Right.
penguins are going to be here.
Probably, but even if we were to colonize Antarctica, it would not necessarily be impossible, but it would definitely be a strain for our present day modern technology and what we're capable of. Now, I would say probably within the next 25, 50 years, if technology keeps progressing at the rate it is, possibly. We could possibly terraform Antarctica within certain domes, or even possibly terraform the continent itself to where, the outer edges could be, fertile farmland, but then yet internally, it could still be, cold, rugged, mountainous, snowy, icy, what have you. Now, in terms of segregating animals,
No, that was a joke.
yeah, I know you're meaning it, but still, me, I could perceive a joke and turn around into something that could actually be plausible.
But I know
So,
Republicans would mine Antarctica. I thought of mining for natural
yes,
resources. Yeah, they would definitely do that.
yes, that. Now, in terms of segregating animals, possibly, maybe, that I have no definitive answer on. Probably no, maybe we'd find some way to keep penguins as domestic house pets or domestic farm animals. knowing us and how we like to be innovators and creative, it could be a possible fucking thing. And also, the next one I was getting on to is with our current technology, I mean, it is progressing at a very alarming rate for good reasons. Now, will it be our undoing? Depends upon how it's implemented and who controls said technology. The technology itself is not inherently good or evil. In itself is neutral. It's all depending upon how it's implemented, how it's used, and who's controlling it. But I would say probably within the next 100 years. So I'd probably say by 2120, we might be able to colonize the moon, possibly terraform it, maybe Venus, maybe Mars, who knows. But I would say if we were to colonize our whole solar system, not necessarily, trying to colonize the gas giants, but possibly some of the moons that surround the gas giants, that would probably take well more than 100 years. That probably wouldn't be until possibly like the 2500s, if not possibly the 3000s, because terraforming a planet, especially having to get human beings that far away with food supplies and at the current rate of aging, that's going to be a very serious monumental task. Not necessarily impossible, but it's going to take way more time to, perfect terraforming, how we could reverse aging or slow down the aging process. And then we'd also have to potentially work out, light speed, warp speed, or even possibly going with wormholes to manipulate space and time to shorten the process to get there. Not necessarily impossible, but at this current rate, I'd say 2500s to 3000s, if humanity is even still around at that time.
Well, Einstein said that there's a huge problem with human beings going at the speed of light. So I would say the wormholes are probably how alien beings are traveling from their galaxy to Earth. Most likely, it's a shortcut in the universe. The wormhole, um, and they probably also know about interdimensional travel and things of that nature. Now, getting back to terraforming, they most likely will, I assume, start with the lowest form of plant life, like algae, fungi, just to start uh, producing the oxygen and the components required for an atmosphere. And then, you know, start from the lowest forms of plant life and just gradually work up, but in order to build the atmosphere, like Mars, for instance, one side of Mars is kind of flattened, like Mars. They feel Mars was hit by an asteroid at one time because Mars actually had much more of an atmosphere than it has now, which is withering away. It's getting thinner and thinner, and the ultraviolet radiation of the sun is not being blocked at all. So to terraform Mars, I'm just assuming it would have to be lowest forms of plant life. Now, according to the rover-like robotic devices that have visited Mars, the fascinating thing about Mars is what is down. The deeper the robot digs, the deeper it drills, that the scientists feel that there's an excellent chance that there is bacteria and low forms of life that might still be existing, even so much as water, deeper into the soil of Mars. They look at some of the moons of Saturn, and I think that one particular moon going around Jupiter,
Yeah, let's see.
famous moon that there's definite activity on
I Yeah,
moon.
another one you're talking about. I believe with Jupiter, that one is Europa.
There,
Saturn,
yeah,
it's Titan.
Titan is what the Saturn, the famous
Yeah, the
Saturn.
Saturn.
Yeah, and there's definitely no, it's not just it's not a total. It's like it's not a gaseous moon. There's activity in the moon itself, in the crust. You know,
Right.
there's liquids of different. It might be toxic. It might it might not be H2O, but there's definitely liquids. Now Europa seems to be the moon with the most promise. Uh, they
Right.
they thought Pluto was just some dead rock, but not really. There's actual.
Right. Um, the gas giants have many moons, but they also have some of the weirdest, strangest moons as well. Like, see, the most famous one for Jupiter is Europa. The most famous one for Saturn is Titan. Now, for Uranus, the most famous moon for Uranus is called Miranda because it's very small and it's very rugged. It has no atmosphere.
Okay.
The gravitational pull, if we were to actually land on Miranda or try to colonize it or do any excavation projects, it would be a serious strain for even extreme futuristic technologies because the gravitational pull on Miranda is less than 1% of that of Earth. So it has an atmospheric pressure and a gravitational pull of 0.01% of Earth. So, I'm losing weight. I'm down to now 230 pounds. So
Oh,
I
wow.
would weigh I would weigh 2.3 pounds with no artificial gravity on Miranda. Yes, granted, I would still be able to stick to the surface, but if I did any amount of movement, however small or slight, even if I decided to do a little jump, I could potentially go off into space. The only way that they would have any way of actually maintaining your gravitational pull onto the surface of Miranda is if there was artificial gravity in your suit and you had some way for your spacesuit shoes or your boots to maintain the grip onto the surface of the moon. Otherwise, you just float off into space.
Oh, it's much worse than our moon. Much worse.
Hmm. Yes.
Uh, but this. I don't mean to sound like Pinocchio in a Geico commercial, but our technology really does have untapped potential.
It does.
It really,
Now, yeah.
and it's advancing at such a rapid rate. Look, Japan has androids that can hold a conversation with a human, and they develop a personality as you talk to it, like a child, like teaching a child. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. So the idea of having cyborg humans, to extend
Right.
the lifespan of humans is not far fetched.
Right, absolutely. But I mean, there's going to be people who are going to be opposed to this technology. I mean, there are pros, there are cons, but it's all a matter of how it's implemented and who controls this technology.
Well, cloning
So,
is wonderful. I mean, there's a clinic. I mean, there's a lab in South Korea that's cloning everything, but you have to have a complete DNA strand. It has to be intact. That's why they, because of the permafrost in Siberia, they're finding woolly mammoth carcasses and other prehistoric creatures that are thawing out, and they're bringing it to the lab, and they haven't received a perfect DNA where they can put it into a female Asian elephant, which they can do and easily bring back the woolly mammoth. I mean, the technology is it is really super advanced, more than the average person is aware of. Uh, uh,
right,
uh, uh, Stem cell research. Remember when all the right wing religious freaks we're screaming about stem cells, and heaven forbid
Hmm.
you should cure a person from being paralyzed, like the late Christopher Reeves. Oh, that would be terrible. Oh,
Oh yeah,
that would be a Christian thing to do, right? It's to cure a paralyzed person.
yeah. To them, they think medicine is the modern work of the devil. Now, I will say there is now a lot of pseudoscience when it comes to medicine, especially when it comes to modern day capitalist medicine, where they think they have a pill or something like that to cure any ailment or something like that. I'm sorry, but that's not how medicine works, and that's not how you treat. You can't just treat anything with medication. Some things need to be treated in other ways besides medication, but capitalism only sees dollar signs, and medicine is what makes the money.
Yeah.
Now, um, there's also another reason why Republicans are also, especially religious zealots, the more radical of the religious fanatics, as to why they are against stem cell research, but there's also another reason why they're against other forms of medicine and why they're also anti science. You know, it makes them have to use their brain. See, religion, you could just, teach it to someone and it completely takes away their critical thinking and their logic. As Karl Marx said, religion is the sign of the oppressed creature. It is the heart of a heartless world. It is the opium of the masses. Meaning, yes, this world sucks, but it just wants to, give you this false sense of purpose, false sense of being, to, just basically put a band aid on something that requires stitches as to why the world sucks. And then they also want to do that with medicine. They want to have their faith. They want to say, oh, we're going to heal you with faith. Well, I hate to say it, but if you really want to get better, you're going to have to use science. You're going to have to use medicine or some kind of treatment to take care of certain problems.
You notice
But
how,
enough,
yeah, conservatives are very anti-science in every way. It's really dumbass fanaticism in the worst form. I mean, it's to reject science.
exactly. Not only that, but science has already proven. I know we were, talking about, you know, the guy Morg from his YouTube channel, the one that says we are Hyperions. I posted a video response to what he was saying about how, you are not a body, you're not this, you're not that. He wanted to try to really just say that, we're nothing but this, we're nothing but that. But then yet, I hate to say it, for him to be such an intelligent human being and his love of science, in a lot of ways, he's very anti-science because when he presented that argument, he rejected a whole entire other aspect of science, which is an objective proven fact, and that there are 10 dimensions, if not possibly 11 dimensions, to our reality. So I'll start with the basics, the first five, and then work your way because the higher we go up, the more complex and more complicated it becomes to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with dimension one. Think of dimension one as a straight, flat line. Okay, as they would call it, the x-axis, if we're looking at a particular graph. All right, so two dimensions would be, like this, the x and the y-axis. You can go up, down, left, right.
Mm-hmm.
Third dimension, to where, there are extra sides and extra dimensions to something, three-dimensional. Then the fourth dimension is considered space and time. The z-axis, as they say on the y-axis, to where, if we're trying to pinpoint a particular location within the first four dimensions, we can use that to pinpoint it with precision and accuracy within a certain degree of error with that. So the fifth dimension is being able to manipulate space and time within one universe. because the past, the present, and the future all coexist at the same time. Some people think that, time is linear, as in it goes in a straight line, only one dimensional. It's not true. Time and space are just as dimensional as the other four or the other three dimensions to our reality. Now, being able to manipulate space and time within this universe is, being able to go backwards, forwards in time, and also possibly going up and down in time, going in different directions within our particular universe. So some people even have a hard time grasping that particular concept. So now we're going to go through dimensions 6 through 10. So another aspect of the fifth dimension is, you know, every possibility that has ever happened or ever will happen has already happened and will happen because time is not linear. And there are infinite numbers of possibilities and an infinite number of timelines, meaning anything and everything is possible. Anything that either has happened, is happening, or will happen is going to happen in some universe or another. So the fifth dimension also encompasses the ether, so to speak, between alternate parallel universes and timelines. Now, dimensions 6 through 10 are exploring all of the different aspects of alternate parallel universes and alternate parallel timelines, respectively. Now, when you're dealing with alternate timelines and parallel universes, they could be the most minute of differences, but also some of the most biggest radical changes that just change everything. For example, we'll start with the minute differences. So, there could be a parallel universe where, we're having this exact same conversation and everything is going the way it is right now. But it could be just something as simple as maybe just microseconds into the past or microseconds into the future. Something that small. Or it could be something as simple as everything is still the same, but I'm in a different corner of the room. Or it could also be, we're switched places. I live in New Jersey and you live in Tennessee. It could be something just small or minute. Now, other more drastic changes would be like the USSR never collapsed, or the Nazis achieved atomic nuclear power and were able to use the atomic bomb and ultimately win World War II. Those are two drastic changes to human history, and that would have huge radical differences to the effect of our timeline to this day. So we're going to go even further and go way more drastic.
Mhm.
In an alternate timeline and also an alternate parallel universe, the laws of physics could also be completely different from ours. Like fire and water could combine, or there could be upside down tornadoes or huge thunderstorms with huge lightning storms. I mean, and things could be like up is down and down is up. I mean, anything is possible when you're dealing with parallel universe. Or we can even go to a parallel universe where there honestly is nothing, where there are no galaxies, there are no stars. There is nothing in this particular universe. All life has ever ceased to exist. The only thing there would be is um, maybe some radiation, maybe some dark energy, some black holes, things like that, but there would be nothing in this universe. I mean, that would be so radical and so different, but some people just cannot grasp this idea and
Yeah.
these concepts.
You know
It
what?
requires too much thought process to really grasp.
You know what concept I'm grasping? You doing very deep videos like this and just call yourself Damien. Like one topic, boom, one title, boom, whatever it is, 20 minutes. You go deep, boom, Damien, and then the title of what you're talking
Mhm.
like like Morg does.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I.
yeah, just I want to do that as a response to that video. I mean, granted, it was a great video, but he just for him to have such a love of science, he seems to only have a particular love or want to really talk about only one science
Well, did he?
while completely forgetting everything else.
Well, did he say that that our the energy that makes us who we are never really dies or perishes? It just takes a different form after death. It
Yeah,
has to go like the paranormal people, the mediums that go on paranormal investigations. They say that that like for instance, if a doll is cursed, never burn it because the evil entity that's in the doll has to transfer somewhere else. It has to attach itself to something.
hmm
It has to go somewhere, and if you burn it, the portal from whence it came stays open. It's like the Ouija board thing. You're not supposed to burn that either. So the energy has to transfer and go somewhere else and attach to something else
right.
because it doesn't have the original uh, object that it decided to call home. So
Exactly.
like the energy that makes us who we are is it doesn't perish. It just transfers.
Yes. And I did talk about this. That's another part of, dialectical materialism is, matter is eternal. It's neither really created nor destroyed. It is recycled. That's also part of dialectics. When things are just recycled. So he does have a point there, but like I said, where he completely just falls is he wants to just have this concept as if you are boundless, you are limitless, and it's just he completely fails to grasp the idea of yes, we do have an actual physical body that has its own form and has its own bounds and its own limitations. We're not just some abstract idea that is, completely boundless and limitless. I mean, our minds, yes, have unlimited potential, but our bodies do not. And that's just one thing he just fails to either ignore or he just wanted to maybe incorporate that in his argument, but he just didn't do it. It's like one of those things he just completely overlooked.
You did the
That's
right
what I'm
thing.
getting at.
You post commentary under. Well, there's commentary on the mystical page, but then there's commentary on his page. So if you copy and paste it twice, then he'll be able to see it, and it'll generate possibly quite a bit of discussion on that topic. I just want everyone to know we don't read from any teleprompters. We have no scripts. This is 100% ad libbed, these shows that we do. No rehearsal. We just have the title and we just go with it. So I just want people to know, that we're just talking as the thoughts enter our minds. That's it. And
Right.
uh, it's kind of like the way Jackie Gleason sort of did the Honeymooners. He had his theme for the episode, but they did not they were not scripted. But anyway, oh, do you know anything about cryptocurrency?
Yes. That was one thing I was wanting to, brush on just a little bit about cryptocurrency
Sure,
is
I know somebody that does it in Shanghai, China, for a living.
right. So cryptocurrency is definitely an excellent concept, but in terms of actual practicality, it's not economically plausible for two reasons. Really outside of the digital world, bitcoins or any kind of cryptocurrency, in all honesty, don't have any real physical manifestation of value. Now, people have actually tried to mint actual bitcoins to, take it from a cryptocurrency and make it illegitimate currency, but it's running into two problems. One, the currency's stability has huge issues that it needs to resolve because with it being a cryptocurrency, it fluctuates way too much. So, really determining an actual right or wrong value of a Bitcoin or anything else, it would be almost impossible to do just because, of its inherent instability. And the reason why it's so unstable is, it's only legitimate on the digital platforms. If you were to try to actually manifest it into a physical currency, then you're completely taking away the cryptocurrency aspect of it, and people don't want that. So we have this huge issue of the instability of value and it fluctuating really high and really low. Like one day, a Bitcoin could be completely worthless, but then yet the next day it could be worth like millions of dollars. And
Okay.
honestly, how can you have a currency that is legitimate and it fluctuates that much? It not only would be impossible to determine it for not only using it domestically, like if a country were to adopt it as an actual currency, it would create so many problems domestically that really no one in the international community would want to follow. And that's the next issue is no one really wants to acknowledge it as legitimate currency because of its fluctuation and it not actually really manifesting any real value because of that. And no one wants to accept it because of the inherent instability and they can't determine its real value. So therefore, if no one accepts it, no one buys it, no one wants it, it's meaningless in terms of its value. So great idea. I'm glad they at least tried it, but to just keep it completely digital and not have an actual physical Bitcoin to where, it can have an exchange rate and be a legitimate currency to compete against the US dollar or whatever type of currency you want to compete in, it's not going to work.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I know it was it seems to be a popular investment internationally, and I'm glad that you have enlightened our viewers as to what exactly cryptocurrency is, and we discussed
Right.
space science in depth. I want to touch upon another evil of capitalism, and that is just how sleazy retail has become. I was looking to purchase something like I normally do. I use PayPal, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy. One click, boom, and then I look for free shipping, which is wonderful. Now, but you have to know exactly uh, what who you're ordering from and exactly the reputation of the company to make sure that you will receive exactly what you order. You can't take any chances. But if you know the company and they're reputable and it's free shipping, more power to you. One click, boom,
Mm-hmm.
PayPal. People, some businesses, it will say, okay, the item is $7.95 or $7.99, $8, and then instead of free shipping, you'll check the shipping and it'll say $29.99 for shipping. Like I saw yesterday, I go, what? Wait a minute, I smell a scam here. $29.99
Mm-hmm.
for shipping, and the item is like $8. So that is only one small aspect of just how underhanded and sleazy retail is. Of course, fine jewelry, tremendously sleazy. They use low grade diamonds and charge people several $1,000s for diamonds that are not investment grade diamonds. Oh, by the way, the De Beers Mining Company deliberately controls the exportation of diamonds from its South African diamond mines
Mm-hmm.
keep the value of the diamond up, because in reality there are so many diamonds being mined and so many more diamonds to be mined, that the diamond is no longer a precious gemstone. It is no longer a precious gemstone.
Exactly.
Again,
It's just basic supply and demand.
yeah, and it's created. It's the market is, the value is just, it's created. It's bogus. It's like a bunch of sleazy hawk-nosed Wall Street scumbags that get together and say, oh, we found brown diamonds in South Africa. Let's call them chocolate diamonds and sell them for Valentine's Day and advertise them on Zales, Jared, K Jewelers as chocolate diamonds. These suckers would buy them like hotcakes. They're ugly as hell.
Yeah.
Call them chocolate diamonds. I mean, there's
Ew.
a perfect example of how sleazy capitalism can be in connection with retail. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I will say this: diamonds, they're controlling the supply while maintaining a high value. It's just basic supply and demand. If there's a lot of supply but not a lot of demand, then of course it's going to be, very cheap. But if there is a demand but not a lot of supply, then you could charge more money for it because there is the demand there, and the supplies that come to market, you know people buy them up, and you could pretty much charge a ridiculous amount of money because people need it, and if they don't necessarily need it, they want it, then you could pretty much just get every penny you can out of it. And as you were saying, there are so many diamonds that, in all honesty, is not considered a precious gemstone anymore. Now, that is true to a great extent. However, I honestly think that if the market were to be flooded with diamonds, the higher grade cut diamonds and the ones that are more clear and don't have as many flaws, they would still command a higher price.
yeah, they have
But
less. They have less inclusions. The flaws are called inclusions in the fine
yeah.
jewelry industry.
So
Yeah.
if I could say a grade C, which is the highest cut of diamond, it has the perfect shape and it's a flawless diamond. Something like that, even if they were to flood the market, it would still command a higher price over your regular run of the mill just because it is a higher grade. Now, would it command a higher price than what, it's charged now? Probably not. But, your lower grade diamonds or your, middle of the road, yes, definitely. Those would be a lot cheaper because those would be more prominent and prevalent, but your better grade diamonds, yeah, they get thrown in the mix, but still, it just wouldn't command the price,
Yeah,
so to speak.
well, sapphires, rubies, and emeralds are more scarce than diamonds, and they are more investment quality. If one wishes to buy precious gems as an investment, they are more of an investment stone, but they still are graded. I mean, they
Hmm.
check for flaws, inclusions, which to usually not only to the naked eye, but with a loop, with a jeweler's loop, and they're
Hmm.
looking there. And usually, the deeper the colored stone, the more value it has. It could be an semi-precious purple amethyst or tanzanite, which, oh, by the way, that's a good investment because the tanzanite only comes from the country of Tanzania, and once that supply runs down, the value goes up.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so the deeper the color, the more it's worth. But they do look for inclusions. Uh, but believe me, gentlemen out there, put a cubic zirconia engagement ring on her, and if she's not happy with that, because it looks like a perfect diamond, and you're not gonna be set back several $1,000s. And if the girl
Right.
is not happy with that, then maybe she's not the one for you. So
Exactly. And then that was the next point I was getting ready to get to was a diamond can be synthetically made. Anything nowadays can, in honestly, be synthetically made. Hell, we have synthetic diamonds. We have synthetic oil. And I guarantee you, to maintain, big oil's profit, you know, there has been synthetic gasoline made. I mean, the biggest one right now that has the most prominent potential is E85. Now, I guarantee you, if the global community were to combine resources to where E85 could be way more prevalent and prominent, that could be a synthetic gasoline that we could still maintain our vehicles that we have today, but still have a renewable energy source to power them with. Because regular gasoline, we still need to keep it as a reserve just in case, as an emergency, but at this point, coal, oil, gas, we should just keep what we've got left and move on to other resources. Like I was saying, E85.
yeah,
It doesn't pollute. It's made from all natural resources. Now, you would have to make some modifications to your vehicle to accept E85 because it is ethanol, and you have to um, have a different fuel rail system built into your vehicle
you
to accept it.
remember
And you don't,
the hydrogen boom, popularity of the hydrogen powered vehicles, but it was too volatile. It was they and then I watched the program that showed that there is an ethanol made from algae,
mm-hmm,
where you don't have to make it from fermented livestock feces, or you don't have to use up vegetation from farmland, crops.
right.
You don't have to sacrifice sugarcane or any other crops. It's actually made from algae. But yeah, I remember the hydrogen powered vehicles, but
Mm-hmm.
it's too volatile. But so this what you just mentioned is made from natural substances, right?
Yes, it's
Not,
made from corn. Yes, it's primarily made from corn. It is also made from sugarcane, but both are renewable resources. And that's kind of like if you were to use old grease. You wouldn't necessarily have to use old grease. You could use um, fresh grease or fresh vegetable oil. So it kind of has like the same look, same consistency. I mean, granted, I'd rather have the smell of deep fryers in the atmosphere as compared to just smelling smelling like the nitrogen, the carbon dioxide. That would have a much more pleasant smell and a much more appealing smell as compared to
yeah.
the fuel that we have now. Now, as I was saying, you have to make some adjustments. You'd have to have a new fuel system put into your vehicle, and you'd have to make some engine modifications and possibly even have a new oil created so that way it wouldn't damage the components of the engine. But still, we could use the technology that we have today. And in fact, that would probably cost, it probably would cost less money to just modify the current technology that we have than just going back to the drawing board, starting from scratch, because, you'd have to come up with a design. You also have to pay the people that come up with this design. You have to pay the people that would implement the technologies, the development, the trials and errors, and that could get very costly very quickly. So your
Yeah.
best bet, just modifying the current technology to accept renewable resource fuel.
Now, it's
Now,
funny you mentioned this. Willie Nelson, a while ago, has his company. I don't know if he still does, where he buys the 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 bottom of the barrel, filthy, deep frying oils from fast food restaurants, removes
mhm,
removes the glycerin, and they can be used in diesel engines.
yes, diesel is a thicker, dense, and less unrefined fuel. Now, a diesel engine would still have to be around to a certain extent, but their prevalence would have to be scaled back more because, like I said, it's a heavier, thicker, less refined fuel, and it does pollute more in terms of emissions.
Now, in this
Because,
vegetable oil with the glycerin removed, it's not a
right,
petroleum-based diesel fuel.
right, I'm just saying, you could still have your diesel engines, and they kind of would have to be around to a certain extent. But I was just, explaining a little bit the difference between, regular gas and regular diesel fuel. So a diesel engine would still be around, and it could be modified to accept this fuel, but its overall prominence would have to be scaled back to where basically, unless you're doing some serious hauling or some serious towing, that really about the in this day and age, it's really about the only real purpose that a diesel engine honestly has. Because um, when it's cold outside, it doesn't really want to work. Your engine doesn't necessarily want to start up, and it has too many sets of problems, and then it just it pollutes more. But my last point I was getting to is another reason why I'm saying just modify the existing technology and have a renewable fuel and cut down emissions is already the automotive industry, they have made great leaps to cut down on emissions, particularly greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, catalytic converters now do a great job of burning unburned hydrocarbons as to what they used to way back in the 70s when they were first introduced. So, with all of that being said, the biggest polluter now is not necessarily automobiles. They've basically taken the emissions from the exhaust pipe to the exhaust stack. Especially if you have like a coal powered power station or a power plant. Yes, those pollute way more nowadays than what all the automobiles that are manufactured now and have been ever since the inception of catalytic converters have ever in human history.
Oh, oh, oh.
So that's why I'm saying, we've come this far, and to really just make it more cost effective while still at the same time being environmentally friendly, E85 is the one that's showing the most promise because it can be mass produced, it can be made all natural, and it's renewable and it cuts down on emissions. And modern technology with just a few adjustments, a modern car with a modern engine can be easily modified to accept such a fuel. But
Now,
capitalism wants to keep the supply down so
yeah.
that way people, turn away from it. They say, "Oh, it's too expensive. It's not readily available." Well, that shows no potential.
Now, when they talk about the Green New Deal, of course, they talk about wind energy, solar energy. Sometimes they mention hydroelectric, but rarely. Geothermal, like the country of Iceland has a lot of geothermal activity. But did you know that there is a hydroelectric buoy that if you keep a string of them offshore, as the offshore ocean gets choppy and the hydroelectric buoy bobs up and down, it produces electricity. To me,
Mm-hmm.
that would be very efficient and not be the eyesore that the windmills would be in a populated area. Now, if you are in a area in the United States, like in the Plain States, or maybe near, like they call Chicago the Windy City, maybe some areas that are not populated, that are more rural, yeah, then you can have them where there's constant wind. Uh, um, um, Solar energy, the Mojave Desert, uh, Nevada, like Bernie Sanders was saying, and he was there in the summer in Las Vegas, 103 degrees in the shade. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there are areas that have no shade, that are desert, that would be perfect for not just the solar panels, which happen to be a hell of a lot smaller these days, but the German-made solar towers, which don't require as much space. And
Right.
tower.
here in here in Northeast Tennessee, honestly, I could say that all of it would be viable. Windmills could definitely be put here, but where we live in a valley, it might or it might not work. Now, if they were to stick windmills on mountaintops, especially like the higher peaks, definitely, wind energy could be definitely viable. Hydroelectric is definitely plausible because we do have a lot of creeks and rivers as well as lakes here in this part of Tennessee. So that would also be economically viable to have hydroelectric power. Solar, yes, definitely. Especially here in the summer months. The summers in Tennessee are very harsh. Not as harsh as, like, um, I could say the deep south where it can get like really hot, really humid, or out in the desert, but it can get pretty hot and it can get pretty humid here. See, we're closer down to the Gulf, and we're more of a closer to a tropical climate as compared to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Our summers are very hot and they are very humid. Now, we do have some dry, humid days, and it makes the hot days more bearable. But when you get something that's like 95 degrees, 100% humidity with a UV index of 10 plus, whew, you step outside for 5 minutes, if that, it will take the breath out of you. And if you are doing anything outside, you will just literally turn into a just smoldering sweatshop.
You
Like,
will be doing. I predict. I don't need the copper divining rods. I predict you will be doing a lot of beer reviews come summer.
yes,
Oh,
henceforth why I got this tablet. Now,
oh,
I do
sorry.
want to talk a little bit about this tablet. So, we
Sure.
were at Walmart. We were at Walmart. I was shopping around. I was like, well, I'll whip through the electronics section because the WalMarts around here, we have super Walmarts, and they actually do have a great selection of things in the electronics department. We also have great selections in terms of the grocery department and also automotive,
Well,
sporting.
oh, electronically, it depends on what company you buy because I got screwed by buying a desktop that was on sale um, in my local Walmart. And after that, I decided not to buy an electronic.
Well, this one's not like some off brand. This one is an actual name brand electronic.
Okay.
This one is a Samsung Galaxy tablet.
Oh, that's good.
Um, so I was looking at this one. They had three models available. They had this one for 139. They had another one for 197. Then they had the top premier one, which was like 319 bucks. So I was like, I know how to look at specifications because I mean these are essentially mini computers. So I decided to look at the specifications of all three tablets to see which one really gave the best bang for buck. So the one that all three of these tablets had in common, they're also Samsung Galaxy tablets. But it's just the core thing that all three of them had in common was they all four had a quad core processor, which is a 4 core processor. They all operate at the same speed, 2 gigahertz, because I mean, this is a mini computer, but it's not doing a lot of background tasks and functions as compared to a normal computer. So it could have the cores just at a much slower speed, 2 gigahertz, and it would do it just fine. So I was like, okay, they all have a quad core processor, they all run at the same speed, they all had the exact same specifications in terms of RAM. I think this one has either four. I think this one has either 4 or 8 gigs. I'll have to go back and look. And I saw the only difference between the three of them, and I was like, really? You're going to command a much higher price for this when the only difference is storage capacity and a slightly bigger screen? Are you fucking kidding me? This one has 32 gigs. The 197 had like 64 gigs of storage, and then the $319 had 128 gigs of storage. And I'm just like, I'm not gonna pay just $60 more for double the storage, and I'm definitely not gonna pay well over double the price for double the storage. So that's why I went with this 139, because if you want more storage, you can easily attach a solid state drive for extra storage, or you can just swipe out the micro SD card and for more storage. If that's an issue, you could buy a micro SD card for much cheaper than buying something like that. Because I guarantee you, if you go online on sale right now since it's tax time, you could probably get something that's got well over 200 gigabytes of storage for an excellent price. I was like, well, I'm not going to be using this as a real computer. I'm just going to have this to, take on the road with me, do these. And I'm also going to do like schoolwork and some videos. So I'm not going to be working with a lot of storage. I might just have this from, sitting up in bed, trying to, get sleepy, what have you, and I don't want to fool around on my phone, then that's just primarily what I'm going to use this for. So $139 seemed like a wise investment at that particular point. Now,
Yeah.
Well, I do like it.
You know how to research these things. You know a lot about computers, so.
And what do I do with the box? It's a Samsung Galaxy tablet. It's a 1A, is what this particular designation is called.
How do they cool with no space in between hardware inside the device? How do any of them keep cool? Laptops, tablets?
Okay, so with a desktop, there's a lot of room in terms of cooling.
Yeah.
So these, they don't necessarily require a lot of cooling because they're not really doing much. So the way that it works is, you have your actual motherboard.
Right.
Then you have your motherboard. Now these motherboards are extremely small because this would be considered a mobile chipset. So the CPU is going to be much smaller, and it's going to be on a much smaller die as compared to something that you would put in a laptop or even a desktop. So the smaller of a die you go, and the smaller you make a chipset, the less hot it's going to run because, it's not going to require a lot of energy. And if it does generate heat, it's concentrated. And if that heat is concentrated, then you can do more in terms of cooling, because I can feel just by this case, even though this has been going now for, almost 2 hours, and the battery's not drained all that much, and yeah, I can tell the back is warm, but where the processor should be, it's cool. So whatever they're doing in terms of cooling, it works. So I assume there's maybe a thermal paste on the actual chipset, and it's a really strong thermal paste where the heat goes into the paste, then it goes into a heat sink, and that heat sink just dissipates it throughout the casing. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, it's got the RAM. The RAM sticks are going to be much smaller. And then for storage, it's a micro SD card. So not a lot really going on here.
Yeah, as opposed to a large desktop like my brother-in-law's liquid-cooled custom-built desktop, which is absolutely amazing, especially when he turns the lights on that thing, and he's got that eerie green color, of it, like antifreeze. Yeah, it's amazing, but it's totally encased. There's no fans. And
liquid cooling does a lot better because I have a radiator in my computer to cool my processor, because the most amount of heat that is generated in a computer is the processor. So if you want to focus on cooling your processor. But I assume, since it's liquid cooled, I assume he's got everything liquid cooled. So I assume it's a closed loop system to where it's got liquid going through the copper block for the processor, and I assume it's probably got a copper block for the graphics card, and then it loops, and I bet there's probably a reservoir tank to where the hot liquid gets stored here, and then once this fills up or it gets a certain temperature, then the cool reservoir allows the cool coolant to go through, and it just acts like an actual cooling system for a modern day vehicle.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
And I assume it's also probably got either intake or exhaust radiators. That way, it has a way for the coolant to go through the fins, and then the fans blow over them, or something blows over it to cool it, and then it just recirculates. That's basically how a modern cooling system for an automobile works.
Right. Yeah.
So what does it use for an actual coolant? Does he use antifreeze, or what does he use?
I better ask him. I never asked him that. I was so like mesmerized by the damn thing. It was like Frankenstein's monster experiment. I never seen one before, and I should ask him what exactly is the liquid coolant in your desktop. That's a
right. Hey, so yeah, he's basically got it set up like a modern day cooling system. Now, the cooler your computer runs, the longevity of your product that you put into it will last a lot longer. And there's also another benefit to having a completely liquid cooled system. You can overclock it, meaning you can adjust the voltage. You can also adjust the speed of which it runs at. As long as you've got an adequate power supply and your thermals are in check, there's no bounds to how fast you can really push a computer to how fast it can go.
Well,
now
that's him. He's Mr. Overclocking. Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
So the Guinness Book of World Records has the highest overclocked processor in human history. It was an AMD FX, I want to say 8350, on a liquid nitrogen cooled system.
Oh, wow.
So they took this processor, they put it on a specific motherboard, they took off any voltage regulators, and then they liquid cooled this processor to see just, how fast can this thing actually go before it just explodes. So the base clock of the AMD FX 8350 was 4 gigahertz, which this was back in 2012, 2013. This is when processors were starting to push the 4 gigahertz speed. Now we're talking more like 5 gigahertz speed is what people are trying to push. I'm trying to go to like maybe 5.5 or even 6 gigahertz in terms of speed. So for something like this was definitely monumental. So they turned off the voltage regulators. They liquid nitrogen cooled it. So they just kept overclocking it and overclocking it and overclocking it to see how far it would go. Because there's a certain point to where it gets too hot or it draws way too much power to where you have to find that temperature to voltage sweet spot. Because if you don't, you'll basically just destroy the components in your computer.
Right.
They were able to take that 4 gigahertz processor and make it an over 8 gigahertz processor. Okay. Just by liquid cooling. They basically doubled its speed. Wow. Now, I don't know how many volts that fucker was drawing, but I'd say for 8 gigahertz on liquid cooled, if that liquid cooling wasn't happening, it probably would have melted. Because when you have something that hot and running at that high of a voltage, you better keep your thermals in check. If not, that would be a hazardous fire situation. An electrical fire, I've seen them happen. They are not pleasant.
Oh, no. Hey, I've seen what happens when a cell phone overheats. I saw the video of the explosion of a cell phone. It's serious business, man. That one thing. Now what Mexican soda flavor are you having right now?
Fruit punch.
Fruit punch. Jarritos. Jarritos.
Yes. So I was introduced to this. Yeah, I was introduced to this as a teenager. In my town of Chohalie, Virginia, we had gotten a Mexican restaurant in 2000. I want to say 2005 because the previous restaurant that was there was a coffee shop, and it was really popular in the 90s, but in the 2000s, you had Starbucks, and Starbucks really just took a lot of shares and pretty much cannibalized the coffee market to, where, if you want coffee, you go to Starbucks. So your little mom and pop coffee shops, they just went out of business. So the
I
town of Chilhowie, yeah, the town of Chilhowie is a very small town. We have a town population of, I don't know what it was last time I checked, but I know when I lived there, we were maybe 1,000 people, if that. Very, very small town. So we wanted to start bringing in, more restaurants to grow our population and to have more revenue for the town. So Mexican restaurant came in, and it was a mom and pop Mexican restaurant called what is it called? I'll think of it here in a moment, but it was one of the best Mexican restaurants I ever had because there was a commercial chain of Mexican restaurants that were around called Los Arcos. I haven't seen one since I would say like 2007. They just went out of business.
said Los Arcos.
Yes, Los Arcos.
We had a Los Arcos. It was called Acapulco Los Arcos. They had an all-you-can-eat on Mondays that was really good, and they had a sangria night. They had a frozen margarita night, and they changed the name to El Norte, which probably means northern Mexico, the north. And they retained the all-you-can-eat on Monday until the owner from Texas decided to get greedy and just have a total nightclub and get rid of the food, get rid of the all-you-can-eat, and guess what? His business plummeted because people really like that, And
as I was saying, I tried it for the first time at this Mexican restaurant. I was like, well, let me try a Mexican soda, just to see, how Mexican soda really was. So I was looking at the different flavors, and none of them really appealed to me. So the guy walked me over to the cooler. He said, come on over, pick one out, and you can have one.
Well, so I thought tamarind. Jarritos tamarind is really good.
Yeah, but I saw this one. It said fruit punch. So I was like, okay, I'll do a Jarritos fruit punch. But it's actually pronounced Jarritos because the J is pronounced like a hot in Spanish. So I took one sip and I fell in love with it. So yeah, this is Jarritos fruit punch. It does have natural flavors, but it is made with real sugarcane. And it is also in English, but it's also in Spanish as well. Because the Spanish side of it says Jarritos Tutti Frutti, Refresco Sabor Natural, con azúcar real, which means real sugarcane.
Yeah, well, they probably use tropical fruits, temperate zone fruits. There could be a lot of great natural ingredients in that fruit punch, Jarritos. My favorite Mexican entree is the enchiladas suiza, which has the green tomatillo sauce on top, not the tomato-based ranchero sauce, and sour cream on top of the tomatillo sauce. And usually they use chicken enchilada suiza, or verde, as in green. The tomatillo is related to the tomato, but it looks different. But anyway, I've had Jarritos, I've had the orange, I've had the tamarind. I haven't had the fruit punch yet.
Yeah, this was probably the best one, and it says zero caffeine, sin caffeina, and then it has the nutritional information in English and Spanish. So for calories, or they say calorías, it is 90. So the trans fat, or as they say, grasa, it's zero, so 0 grams, 0%. Cholesterol is the same word, but the Spanish way of spelling it is just with no H. Other than that, it's spelled the exact same.
Now,
Same
what
thing with,
about? Well, I'm happy there's no high fructose corn syrup.
yes, that's what I was getting ready to get to. So sodium, but they call sodium sodio. It's only 45 milligrams, so it's much lower than your regular sodas in terms of the sodium. Total carbs, 22 grams. Sugars, it's 22 grams. So compared to your regular soda, that's much, much lower. There's 0 grams of protein. So here's the ingredients, and they're just typical ingredients that you would expect in a soda: carbonated water, sugar, citric acid, natural flavors, sodium benzoate as a preservative, red 40, and caramel color. So, and it does specifically say made in Mexico.
Yeah, well, it's good soda. That's all I have to say.
Hmm.
It's good soda, and the number one thing I like about it is no high fructose corn syrup.
Exactly, and that's why it tastes better. I mean, granted, yeah, it's low sugar, but even at 22 grams of it being real sugar cane, it's sweet, but it's not overly sweet. Like, if you taste a soda that uses real cane sugar as compared to high fructose corn syrup, there's two things you notice. Um, the high fructose corn syrup is much sweeter, and it has like a sticky dryness to it. Whereas with this one, it has a dry finish, but it's not sticky dry, if that makes any sense. And just it just you can tell that they put more time and care into the ingredients by using actual cane sugar as compared to the high fructose corn syrup. Now, American sodas used to not have high fructose corn syrup in them. They made the change over in 1985.
Mhm.
So every soda, even if it was made by Coke or Pepsi, had real cane sugar until 1985. 85 was the transitionary year, and by 1986, all American sodas, unless it specifically stated no high fructose corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup, it was made with high fructose corn syrup. Corn, I can't even say that word right. I get tongue twisted.
Well,
So
that's why I said it's slow. Yeah,
yeah, so unless it specifically says with real sugar, ever since 1985, it's high fructose corn syrup. Unless it says real sugar, it's high fructose corn syrup. It's
okay.
been that way since the 80s.
Well, it's toxic. It's especially if they're using um, the real genetically modified corn, and it's not good for you. And by the way, people, if you think artificial sweeteners are the safer alternative to cane sugar, you're mistaken.
Yeah, particularly aspartame.
It's toxic as hell. Did you know that aspartame? I don't know why they called it NutraSweet at one time, but do you know that aspartame or sucr or even sucralose, um, kept in high temperature environment, like at a gas station where they might sell cases of soda and it's out in the heat
Hmm.
summertime, that turns to formaldehyde. That
No
could
wonder people. No wonder people are looking like walking zombies, just preserved.
Well, that's probably why they're so brain dead now. Yeah, yeah, it converts to formaldehyde under higher temperatures. So, but even by itself, it's toxic. You're way better off with old fashioned pure cane sugar. Now, the Spanish word for the dehydrated sugar cane juice, which is brown, which has a molasses aroma and flavor, they call it panela with a P, because canela with a C means cinnamon in Spanish. But panela is the dehydrated sugarcane juice.
Hmm.
On that note, I'm getting hungry, I'm getting thirsty, and let's just cut it short and say good luck to Bernie Sanders for Super Tuesday this Tuesday. Good luck to you, Bernie Sanders, and thank you, Damian Owens, and thank everyone that will eventually watch the show.
Yeah, and honestly, I love this tablet. I love coming in here in this room and doing it on this tablet. Got some peace, got some quiet. Wyatt did come in through the door, but he knocked, and I basically just pointed at him and said, "Nope, I'm doing a show. Give me some privacy."
Why is he so stubborn about complying with instructions? Why is he so stubborn? You think he needs like a ferocious spanking?
I wasn't going to go that far, but I mean, I did hear him knock, but I didn't just want to be. I didn't want to interrupt. That's why I muted my mic and was like, all I did was just kind of just look at him and just go, "No, I'm doing a show."
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the, the the average person that has the average young children. They
Hmm.
get up even on a Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter. They get up real early and their kids are jumping up and down on the parents' bed trying to wake their parents up. Well,
He
maybe
don't do that to us.
well maybe
No, he don't do
daddy,
that to us.
maybe daddy is nocturnal. Maybe daddy works the late shift. Get the fuck back in your room, watch cartoons. Daddy's sleeping late.
Right. But I mean, at least he didn't come in and just try to interrupt. I mean, he kind of opened the door and was looking. I just kind of went. He knows if I just point, he knows not to come in and leave.
Yeah, he didn't do. I'm trying to find something in the shape of it. He didn't do a mother-in-law's tongue plant routine.
No.
He didn't do that. Like put her 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 gorda facha or facha gorda or however you
Hmm.
say it in front of the camera with the cat in her arms. You know the time she put her mug right in front of the camera.
Yeah. I don't know why. That's why another reason why I'm trying to just get the that big Chester drawer out. I mean, yeah, I mean it looks nice in this room, but I mean it takes up way too much space. I'm
Oh
trying to
yeah.
figure out where else we can put it.
Oh, they take up a lot of space. It's like a china cabinet, right? It's big.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean the one thing I decided to do when I moved in this new place is not have clutter. I didn't want clutter because I wanted to slap together this personal training studio in my living room. And I wanted to have space, fresh air, opens, and I have plenty of room to work out. I got plenty of room if guests come over. I got my aquarium going. So, everything's going well without the clutter. But I know with my what happens is that a lot of women when they when they move into their boyfriend's if they happen to move into their boyfriend's house, they don't ask permission to do this. They automatically start putting dry flowers and scented candles all over his apartment, like a certain relative of mine did to her boyfriend without asking him. Oh, can I put all this girly stuff in your man cave?
Well, I mean, I don't like scented candles because I think honestly a lot of them just smell terrible. But believe it or not, some of them actually don't smell all that bad. Now, I mean, like, it's like maybe just one candle or two, fine. But I mean, if
Right.
it's just like, if the whole room is like covered in them,
Look,
I'm just thinking to myself, that's a fire hazard.
I don't want to sound like Pete Buttigieg, but the cinnamon ones and the pine tree ones smell pretty damn good.
Hmm.
I know that's for a guy to say that. I know I'm sounding like Pete Buttigieg by saying that, but yeah, they smell pretty damn good. But no, she doesn't like them. She just puts them every which way, because they're a nice color. They're big fat candles, and they give off an aroma as you walk by. You can smell them. She doesn't like them because she says it's a fire hazard, and she's right. Uh,
Well, that's what I say. I mean, like, if it's just like a candle or two, fine. But I mean, if the room gets covered in them, like for me, if I was to put a candle in a room, um, I'd put it on a table, and I'd make sure it was just like one big candle, not like the whole room be covered in them.
well, I got this Gothic. My mother gave it to me. God rest his soul. I got this cast iron Gothic candelabra candle holder that you would like. It's very Gothic looking. It's black. It's tall.
Hmm.
And you can, if you put white candles in and you turn a black light bulb on, it'll glow. You know, it's really cool. But and then I got my ex from San Diego, the Mexican girl that I used to. She bought me. She sent it to me for my birthday a couple years ago. A big Himalayan pink salt lamp, the jumbo one.
Yeah, we got one in here. I mean, it's
Amazon.
over there on the nightstand near the TV, but I mean, we haven't turned it on and used it in I don't know how long.
Yeah. No, well, the only reason why I like mine is because it's the big one, and it gives off a nice glow. It's a nice light for watching television, or if you
Mhm.
want to just relax late at night and you don't want bright lights on over you. It does give off a nice orangey, hue.
Right.
But anyway, and I got my gargoyle statues next to it. I got the whole thing, the sugar
Yeah.
Mexican sugar skull. So anyway, adios, amigo. Enjoy.
Adios.
And what is your next review that you're thinking of doing?
Well, let's see here. I've got a backlog of videos, so I'm probably going to do a mass upload tonight or sometime this week. I've got a mass backlog of, I did a couple stouts, and then,
I look forward.
I did, yeah, I did the Keystone Ice. I did a formal review, and then, I did the review on our, um, beer Boisterous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done a formal review of that one. Uh, I'd say probably the next one I'm going to do is, since everyone is so, oh, look, the one's about the coronavirus, I'm probably just going to do Corona.
That was a funny article that Eric Fraunfelter read, and I told Ronald J. Terrio, and he says, "Oh, I hope it's not true." I says, "Jay, I wouldn't be surprised if it is true. This is modern day America. America.
Right.
This is the way things are. That people are really that stupid, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's called Corona. Oh, I might get infected. So yeah, do a Corona, and well, it's made by Modelo, I believe. Corona's
Hmm.
made by Modelo. There's Negro Modelo or Modelo Special, and then there's another Modelo. I think I don't know if it's a basic lager Modelo or what, but there's
Hmm.
additional Modelo. Uh,
Yeah, I'm going to do that one. I've got Corona. Um, I do have one other beer that I need to do a review of just to, get it out of the fridge. I have one left. Um, I did the Budweiser Copper Lager, which was an excellent lager
okay.
from Anheuser-Busch. I mean, granted, it's a macro, but it's more of a craft style in terms of macro. It's a black lager. I mean, they did excellent.
Like
So the next one I'm going to
Michelob,
do is,
Michelob is to Anheuser-Busch. That was like one.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Now,
I mean, I'm going to do reviews of Michelob. I'm probably not going to do Michelob Ultra for a while just because I can't tell if it's beer trying to be water or water trying to be beer. But Michelob is, your, above premium. It used to be made with corn adjunct, but now it's an all malt beer. But I mean, I will do a review of that. But the one I'm going to be doing here next is the Jim Beam Copper Lager from Budweiser. So what they did was they made a copper lager and then they aged it in Jim Beam bourbon barrels.
oh wow, that's interesting.
So you would think, I mean, not everything from Anheuser-Busch, InBev, or something that comes from a macro company is going to be cheap. I mean, a 6 pack of it is like $7 a 6 pack.
You know what
So
I think they're doing? They, the people running Anheuser-Busch, see the growing popularity of craft beers and just how many microbreweries are popping up in every state in the country, and they feel competition closing in, and they decided to compete with them. So
yeah,
they're adding their own version of craft beers, which I think is great because the more competition you have, it brings, well, it's supposed to bring the prices down. Have you ever had Dos Equis Ambar and or
oh yeah.
lager?
Um, Dos Equis Ambar is, it's along the same color. This Jim Beam Copper Lager, the Budweiser Jim Beam Copper Lager. Um, but what I found that these medium colored beers that are like amber, copper, maybe like a bronze, dark bronze, not really like brown or dark ruby red or black like a stout or a porter would be, but these medium colored beers where they have like some roastiness, a little carameliness to it. It pairs very well with some spicy chicken nachos if you use the black and the blue tortilla chips.
Oh yeah, the blue corn tortilla chips are great. I love them.
So yeah, I've got that one to do. I'm gonna finish off this Keystone Ice 15 pack I've got. Um, I'm gonna do a legacy brand, but I'm gonna get around the Budweiser. Like I'm gonna end up doing all the macro beers. Like all of Anheuser Busch's beers. I'm gonna do all of Coors beers. I'm gonna do all of Miller's beers. I'm gonna do, and then from then I'll just branch out into craft and still see what's out there. But I think the one I really want to do is it's not all that readily known, at least to most people. I want to do a review of Coors Banquet because it is an American legacy beer. It wasn't produced east of the Mississippi until like the late 70s, early 80s, and the last state to get it was Indiana in 1991, and that was one of the premises of Smokey and the Bandit was to smuggle Coors Banquet across the Mississippi. So I do want to do a review of that just because when people think Coors, they think of Coors Light. They don't realize that there's other Coors beers that bear the Coors name besides Coors Light. And I will tell you, Coors Banquet, I think tastes a lot better than Coors Light. For a light beer, Coors Light, it's a light beer, and it's one of the better ones. But the Coors Banquet, hands down,
Now
is an excellent beer.
does the Stroh's Brewery still exist? Stroh's?
Okay, so Stroh's was
Detroit, right?
Stroh's.
Detroit.
It they don't exist because they were bought out. So Stroh's bought was it Stroh's bought Schlitz or Schlitz by Stroh's? I can't remember, but basically it was like the minnow eating the whale, and they had to leverage so much of the company in order to acquire all of this. But Stroh's and Schlitz combined, and then both of them were eventually bought by Pabst. And then in 1999, Pabst turned over all their breweries to Miller, while although they are still technically a brewery or a macro brewing company,
Huh.
they're more or less now just brand holders. So Pabst now has Schlitz beers as well as Stroh's beers as well as Pabst beers. So Stroh's is owned by Pabst, so you can get like Stroh's Light, and then also you got Schlitz, and then you got the Schlitz beer, then you got like the Schlitz malt liquor line, and then they're contract brewed at Miller Coors or now Molson Coors breweries all across the United States because it's contract brewed, but Pabst owns the official brand of Stroh's and Schlitz beers.
Oh, Molson's was bought out by an American company?
Well, they didn't buy out per se. That's a misconception that um Molson Coors and Miller Coors, that it was a 50-50 buyout. No, they were 50-50 mergers. They're still independent companies, just they have combined brewing operations.
Yeah, I remember
That's
Moosehead. I even remember drinking a Canadian beer called Grizzly one time. It was pretty damn good. Uh,
right.
and then
Yeah,
Rolling Rock out of Pennsylvania.
Rolling Rock was independent. Anheuser-Busch bought it in 2006, and then in 2008, Anheuser-Busch was bought by the Belgian conglomerate InBev, and now they're known as Anheuser-Busch InBev. So Miller and Coors have the combined brewing operations here in the U.S., but they're still independent brewing companies. Now, Coors has gone more with Molson, so now it's more or less Molson Coors. Miller was bought by South African breweries out of South Africa. Well, before they were bought out, they were owned by Altria as well as Philip Morris, the big tobacco companies. So I believe it was in 2016, Anheuser-Busch bought a certain amount. I'm trying to think, did they just outright buy Miller? Or they buy some stake in Miller, but now Anheuser-Busch InBev now has a stake with Miller, but Coors is, still Molson Coors. So when they merged in 2008, that's when you saw the introduction of Stella Artois here in the U.S. See, the flagship beer of Anheuser-Busch InBev in the U.S. is Budweiser, but in Europe, it's Stella Artois.
Right. And the Italian beer was that Peroni?
Yeah, Peroni.
Yeah.
Who is Peroni owned by?
Now, Stella Artois is pretty good. I tried that.
Yeah, I like Stella, but believe it or not, Stella actually has adjuncts. They use flaked corn maize as compared to corn grits or corn syrup. So
Now,
people say, "Oh, Stella's cheap because it uses corn." No, they use a much better grade of corn, and Heineken is all malt.
now people don't realize the word Budweiser. It's a town in Czechoslovakia where supposedly beer was first invented.
Right.
It's named after
That
the town. Yeah.
yeah. So during that time, a lot of German heritage beers they were named after particular towns where the beer originated from. Budweiser. Now, that beer video that I posted and everything was food about, why American beer tastes like water and why American beer is the way that it is. In short, when the big breweries started, you had Anheuser-Busch, and you had Coors, and you had Miller. They wanted to, produce like a Czech style Pilsner, which is where a lot of, these heritage beers comes from. Because before Germany became a united country known as modern day Germany, Germany was also many kingdoms. But the biggest part of where this came from was the now state known as Bavaria in Germany, which is in the southeastern corner of Germany today.
That's where Munich is. Yeah, Otto von Bismarck unified Germany eventually.
Right. Yeah. So you have Bohemia and then you have Bavaria, which are two states in Germany, but Bavaria was a much larger state at one point. Bavaria also had parts of the Czech Republic in it as well. So when the Germans came over here, German immigrants started brewing beer. They saw that Americans, they wanted their beer to be light in color. They wanted to have flavor, but nothing super bold, super rich, flavorful. They just wanted something, light, but still wanted nice beer flavor. Now,
Yeah,
Where was I going with that?
the dark stuff.
Oh, yeah, they didn't really want to go with the dark stuff. So, when they were first brewing the beers, they were using European malt. Well, European malt is actually much different as compared to American malt. So, even though it's the same malt, it was grown in much different conditions here in America as compared to over in Europe. So, whenever they would brew with American malt, it wouldn't get that nice, clear, golden color. When they'd use it with American malt, they would get the golden color, but it wasn't clear. It was kind of dirty, a little hazy. So what they did was they still used malt, but they used other grains like corn and rice to cut back on the malt so it'd be much easier to get a clear beer. Now, when people say that the use of corn or rice are fillers, cut corners and cut costs, that's not true. In fact, that beer video was explained by a cicerone, which is like a sommelier. A cicerone is a beer expert, and a sommelier is a wine expert. So that's coming from a certified cicerone, a beer expert. So when you posted that comment, I wanted to respond, but I was kind of just like, just go back and just watch the video. What you're saying is just not true. You said that macros are cheap; they're just for people who just want to get drunk. I was like, no, that's not the case. Did you even watch the video?
I'm talking about the companies that don't do it the old world style, that add chemical preservatives. Those the companies that choose to do that, which is the reason probably why I get heartburn from drinking nationally advertised like your Budweisers, your Coors, especially Coors.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. That's how I am. I don't eat shit. What can I tell you? I'm holistic.
Well, I mean, it's not shit. I mean, I've had some beers, and I can tell you you're getting hungry and you want to go, but I can honestly tell you, even the most run of the mill, bottom of the barrel stuff that's made by the big breweries is actually a lot better than some of the shit I've had. Like I've had some beer that was just straight up shit. Like I'll run through a quick list. Like
Well,
probably the shittiest beer.
how many craft beers have you ever had? Great Lakes Stout, or up in near Lake Erie?
We don't get that down
Oh, you
here.
don't get that. All right. Well, I'm just saying there are tons of craft beer breweries in every state in the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to choose from.
Right.
A lot of them are good, and they're done. It might be a little pricey, but they're old world style.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not saying that's anything against craft. I mean, I like craft beer, but get back to what I'm saying. I've had some real shitty beers, and in fact, some of the shittiest beers I've had were craft beers. Like, I had this beer from Honky Tonk Brewery, and it was a New England style IPA. That was probably one of the worst beers I ever had because when I poured it, it looked just like a dirty Sunny D. When I had the aroma, nothing. When I tasted it, nothing. There was no hops, no malt, no yeast, nothing. I gave that a 0 out of 100. And I was like, man, that's terrible. That's coming from a craft perspective.
That was an honest review. I tell you one thing, I'm very impressed with the beers that Eric Fraunfelter brings to the shows. They look the New England breweries. They look really nice. Their product.
Yeah. But as I was saying, so with that, I've had shitty beers from craft breweries, but when you go with some of these like lesser known brewing companies and they're trying to brew beers like City Brewing out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, and under special agreement Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and also Memphis, Tennessee. They do a lot of contract brewing. So they do contract brew like some good stuff. Like they do contract brewing for Boston Beer Company. They also do some brewing for Pabst. So they invest a lot of money in terms of brewing other people's beers, but yet they also put a lot of money into producing actual shitty beers. Like they produced a beer for Walmart called Rockdale, and I tried all three. They had a Rockdale Light, they had a Rockdale Classic, and then they had a Rockdale Ice. And Ron Terrio did a review of all three of those beers.
Yeah.
I also did a review of all three of those beers. And honestly, the Rockdale Light was terrible. There was not much flavor to it,
Right.
overly carbonated, and what flavor was there was shit. The Rockdale Classic, oh, don't even get me started on the Rockdale Classic. It tried to taste like Coors Banquet, but it had this really god awful chalky undertaste to it. It had this like grape drink, grape soda type deal going on, some paperiness, some like stale bread and like no white bread or like no hop bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And it was terrible. And the Rockdale Ice, I had one can, tasted okay, but the second can I had was shitty. So I was just thinking to myself, these were Walmart brand beers, but the worst one out of all of them, I got to give to Earthquake High Gravity Lager 10%.
Oh.
Ooh, it's a beer. If you see it, pick it up, try it for shits and giggles. But I guarantee you, it's a beer you will not forget for all the wrong reasons. When you take a sip of it, it doesn't taste like beer. It tastes like really stale, stagnant bum wine. It's really sweet. It's very boozy. There's no real malt. There's not really any like corn or rice action. There's no breadiness from the yeast. There's no hop bitterness from the hops. It's just like I would be surprised if it was actually made in a prison toilet, like prison hooch is made. Because honestly, that's what I thought it tasted like. I'm like, this is pretty terrible.
Do you like the Sierra Nevada?
Yeah. I've had some Sierra Nevada, and I've had Lagunitas, and I've had some other various breweries. The bigger craft breweries like Sierra Nevada or New Belgium, Sam Adams, and then the ones that are also around here like Yeehaw as well as Highland Brewing. The better ones in terms of craft are definitely the next ones. Now, your lesser known or your much smaller ones that haven't really been around all that long, they might produce some great stuff, but yet they might also produce some really shitty stuff. And for me, I don't care who makes a beer. Yeah, I buy them, I taste them, I review them, I give my honest opinion. If the beer is good, it's good. If it's shit, it's shit.
Yeah.
I don't care who makes it.
I know. I read a lot of articles about the hidden ingredients that. Well, of course they want to kill us. Of course the elitists want to bump us off. But that's another talk show. I mean, I've read a lot of articles on dishonesty in the ingredient list. But then again, hey, you know how many retail stores lied about their vitamins? What was in the bottle was not on. What was on the label was not in the tablet or capsule.
Right.
This goes back to the fact that the average person is not going to take a product to a laboratory, have it tested. It goes to the fact that how deceived we are in this fucking system, and how all the fucking rednecks out there, all the religious freaks keep on, especially in the deep South, keep on voting for Republicans. All right, like my friend from China was telling me about her friend from Louisiana that loves Donald Trump. What the fuck? You know what I told her? They're still fighting the Civil War. That's the reason why they keep voting Republican, to bust everybody's balls, because they're still fighting the fucking Civil War. They still want to bring back slavery in a heartbeat if they can. And these are the people that embrace the capitalism the devil's economics.
Yeah, living here in the South, at least in Virginia and here in Tennessee, we have a group of people that do, wear the Confederate flag and, they fly the Confederate flag, but I mean, in this part of the South, it's kind of just looked at as kind of just like it's not. I'm not going to say like it's a taboo, but people just kind of look at you like you're stuck in the past. You're trying to win a war that was lost a long time ago.
Well, like
And
Northern Virginia is not, like your accent is very mild, like Baltimore, like people in Baltimore, like Maryland people.
right,
I mean, like it's not like deep South culture, or deep accent, and then I remember you saying why they broke off from West Virginia because of inbreeding and the issue with that, and there are certain areas that don't have a backward, uneducated, a derogatory attributes that a lot of people have
right,
of the South. There are just
it, right. Like I was saying,
you know,
there is a difference between the different aspects of the South. Like the Upper South, like Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. You know, we're one way, and then the Deep South. Like well, I was going to say like the Upper South. That'd be like Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Virginia. Now your Deep South, like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri, and also Oklahoma and Kansas to a certain extent. Um, they're going to have a much different approach and a much different culture as compared to the Upper South. Like I said, here, yeah, people fly the Confederate flag, and people, still, they wear it, they fly it, but it's not looked at it as a taboo. It's just you do kind of get weird looks, but a lot of people, at least in this part, acknowledge that it is a part of our history, whether we like it or not.
well,
But still, it's a history. You can't necessarily undo our history. Most you can do is acknowledge it is history and just move on from it. That seems to be the stance people around here take to it.
religion is a cult. It's not even
Hmm.
it's not even accurate a Bible scripture Christianity. It's a cult. They're just complete zealots, and they like I said, they call themselves patriots. Hey, if they want to be patriots, go to every war the military industrial complex gets involved in. Go, take your Confederate flag. Go, come back with no legs. Come back in a body bag. I don't give a fuck. Go. I mean, this is they talk a lot of shit. There are some of them that drive up here in their pickup trucks and they got the flag waving and they're all screaming out the window. An asshole is an asshole. We got assholes that like to tailgate you while you drive. I mean,
Yeah, honestly, I could just imagine a person like that if they were to do that in New Jersey. It'd kind of be like if someone had the 1969 Dodge Charger from the Dukes of Hazzard, and they brought it up to like Edgewater up there in New Jersey. They brought it to New York City. I guarantee you, they would probably just look at them like, "What the fuck is wrong with you all?"
yeah, but I like that. I like that show because it cracked me up. You know what I mean? It wasn't upsetting. It was a comedy. But
Right.
Smokey and the Bandit was funny. The movies, and My Cousin Vinny was funny. But the thing is that they embrace Republicans and conservatives, whatever, because they are
Hmm.
still stuck in the Confederacy. They don't like people that are different from them. They don't like foreigners in general, especially if you're very ethnic. And they, in a lot of ways, they're racist, and Trump is racist, so they love him. He
Right.
scratches them
Yeah,
where they itch.
exactly. But last point, and then we'll call it a night. I would have done a much different approach to the Confederacy as what most people would have done. I know our president, James Buchanan, gets looked at as one of the worst presidents in history. But in all honesty, in hindsight, by him not really doing much and you kind of just, letting the North do its thing and let the South do its thing, that actually would have been not such a bad idea to go forward for a variety of reasons. The Civil War could have actually really been avoided. Now, people come at me like, "What? Are you fucking stupid? What's wrong with you?" Of course, it had to have happened. There's no way it could have been avoided. I'm just kind of like, you don't understand Confederate history. I
Well,
mean, granted, I've lived here in the South.
it wasn't over slavery.
Well, yeah,
The blacks want to think that the North went to war to because of them. Well, if that was the case, why did the founding fathers have slaves on their plantations in the Northeast?
right. But what I was going to get at is eventually the Confederacy wouldn't have lasted as an independent country outside of the United States. And this is coming from someone who's actually a Southerner and has lived in the South. So I can honestly say more about actual Confederate history that most people are probably not going to know about. But the Civil War could have been completely avoided. The issue of slavery, states' rights, that would have really been a side issue. But just push all that aside. You know, no country outside the United States was going to acknowledge the Confederacy as a legitimate country unless slavery was abolished. Great Britain would have not done anything with this because of slavery. Same thing with France.
Yeah.
They would have just said, no, if you want to be acknowledged as a legitimate country, get rid of slavery.
No, I don't mind.
So,
I don't mind if they have. I don't mind history. It's educational.
Exactly.
I don't think they should tear down statues of Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis. It's history. It just. I don't know how we got on the Civil War, but I'm for preserving history. I just don't.
Yeah, same here. That's what I was getting at.
Fucking beer conversation, because let me tell you something. That beer crew, those people that when you used to go on a show with, they fucking pissed me off. They annoyed the shit out of me. They're pretentious beer snobs, is what the fuck they are.
Yeah.
And all I know is, and they and in different ways, they rub me the wrong way. And all I know is, if I drink a stout, I really don't want any chemicals in it. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I was getting ready to wrap it up. So
yeah,
I could say, the South. Yeah, if the South would have gotten rid of slavery, okay, Great Britain and France acknowledge us as a legitimate country. We are the Confederate States of America, our own separate independent country, and Tennessee being one of those states. Same thing with Louisiana, the 13 original states of the Confederacy. In all honesty, by 40 to 50 years, we would have had to have united back with the United States because of the way the Confederate culture was outside of the blatant inherent racism and also the blatant inherent sexism. It was economically and culturally backward. So, we had a economy and a culture based on an agricultural economy. And, industry was here in the South, in the Confederacy during that time. But even if, the way things would have progressed, the war didn't happen, and industry would have made its way down in here, culturally and economically, it wouldn't have survived just because of how backward it was. So if there would have been another civil war, it would have happened probably in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the Confederates would have also inherently lost because of the cultural and economic backwardness, but also there would have been insurrections by people down here, by wanting a unified country, and also minorities would have also done insurgencies to, you know, undermine the Confederate government and also the Confederate military to where it would have had no formidable defenses and really had no way of defending itself. So I would say the Confederacy would have lasted maybe from the 1860s to about at most the 1920s to 1930s. I'd say by the 1930s, just pre World War II, we would have been a unified country again, but we wouldn't have taken on the Confederates' debt. We wouldn't have done so many things to the Confederacy. We would have just basically just incorporated them back into the country and just said, we're not accepting your currency. We're not accepting your debt. You're just going to have to accept our terms, modernize, and just come back to America. That's essentially what would have happened.
Okay. All right. I'm just adding topics, extra topics that I'm just adding it in the description.
We can also do another thing about the Confederacy. I mean,
Well,
I do like to talk about it.
It doesn't excite me, to be honest with you. I just, all I know is it's part of American history. There are very positive aspects of Southern and Confederate culture. I don't believe in tearing down or destroying historic landmarks. I think it's terrible to destroy any historic landmark, even if it's a statue of Robert E. Lee. I don't think it should be done. I think anything that is considered a historic landmark is educational, and it's part of American history. I just get riled up with this fucking beer community and their fucking redneck beers. You know.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I like it when Eric brings his hoity-toity, you know, old world style stuff. You know, I like it. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
It's got the head, the craggly head, and all. And then you got, you know, and then James comes on and he's got his fucking corporate fucking, I hate to say it, his corporate fucking macro full, and he say, you know, he's Republican, you know, so he likes anything. He likes big corporate fat cat stuff. Anyway, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go. All right.